The millionaire invited the black cleaning lady as a joke. She arrived like a diva and everyone was in absolute shock when they found out who she really was. The main hall of the Blackwood Mansion in Beverly Hills exploded with malicious laughter when Victoria Sterling descended the marble staircase wearing a dress that cost more than the annual salary of most of the people present. It wasn't laughter of admiration. It was pure cruel mockery. "Look who decided to show up," Richard Blackwood whispered to his guests, raising his glass of Dom Perignon champagne. Victoria was 35 years old and never imagined she would one day step foot in that ballroom as a guest, even if it was a cruel invitation. For 2 years, she had cleaned every inch of that mansion, always invisible, always silent, watching those rich people treat each other with rehearsed falsehoods while treating her like furniture. The invitation had arrived 3 days earlier, handed to her with a smirk she knew all too well. "Charity gala on Saturday," Richard had said, giving her the gold envelope. "Dress code maximum elegance. Surely you have something suitable in your wardrobe, don't you?" The laughter of his friends echoed in the hallway. It was an obvious trap, an attempt to humiliate her in front of California's high society. Richard had even invited social reporters to document what he called an educational moment. He joked with his wife, Helena, the day before. $100,000 says she doesn't have the nerve to show up. And if she does, she'd be the evening's entertainment. Helena laughed maliciously. She'd probably borrow a dress, feel out of place, and leave in 15 minutes. But Richard Blackwood didn't know two fundamental truths about Victoria. Tong. First, she had grown up in halls like this, long before life forced her to scrub them. And second, some storms don't destroy. They teach you how to dance in the rain. As she walked through the hall under mocking glances, Victoria's posture was straight, her gaze serene, as though she carried secrets that could flip that entire world upside down. Her steps were steady, calculated, like a long-rehearsed choreography. The whispers began instantly. "My God, she really came," Patricia Weston, the senator's wife, murmured. "And that dress, where on earth did she get it?" None of them knew the truth. That dress wasn't borrowed, bought, or rented. It was a fragment of her past, one Richard would do anything to erase, had he known it existed. Richard approached her, chest puffed with arrogance, surrounded by his billionaire friends. This was his stage, and he had orchestrated the play. "Victoria, what a pleasant surprise," he sneered. "I never doubted you'd come. After all, when a person like you receives an invitation to an event like this, a person like me?" Victoria repeated calmly, her voice slicing the air like silk sharpened to a blade. "Go on, Richard. Finish your sentence." For a flicker of a moment, something in her tone made him hesitate. The woman before him didn't sound like the submissive employee he'd always dismissed. But arrogance quickly covered his doubt. "Well, someone who doesn't belong here. You must feel intimidated by all this elegance." Victoria smiled, not nervously, not humbly, but with a serenity so unsettling that even a few nearby guests stopped laughing. "Intimidated?" she said softly, locking eyes with him. "No, Richard. I feel exactly where I've always belonged." The silence that followed bent the atmosphere of the party. Guests exchanged uneasy glances. There was something about her tone, her posture, her entire presence that didn't fit the cruel narrative. Richard cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Well, enjoy the evening. I'm sure it will be educational for you." "Oh, it will be educational," Victoria answered, her gaze sweeping over the guests as if cataloging every face for later use. Richard, determined to entertain his friends, tapped his glass with a spoon. "Everyone, I'd like to introduce our special guest tonight, Victoria, our dedicated cleaning lady." Laughter roared through the room. Cameras flashed as guests gleefully snapped photos. Helena leaned close, murmuring, "Richard, don't you think this is cruel?" "Cruel?" Richard chuckled loudly. "I'm giving her the chance of a lifetime. When else would someone like her step into this world?" Patricia Weston glided over, venom disguised as charm. "Victoria, darling, tell me, how long did it take you to choose that dress?" Finding something suitable must have been so difficult. Victoria's eyes never wavered. "Actually, this dress has history. It belonged to my mother." Vivian Chambers, daughter of an oil magnate, snorted. "And where did your mother get a dress like that? A second-hand shop?" Victoria's smile turned dangerous. "My mother wore this in a ballroom exactly like this one, 20 years ago. Back when she was still Isabella Tong Blackwood." The laughter stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's smirk froze on his lips. He turned slowly. "What did you say?" "Tong Blackwood," Victoria repeated, her voice cold and steady. "It's funny how some people conveniently forget their family history." Richard's face drained of color. Helena gripped his arm, sensing danger. "What is she talking about?" "She's lying," Richard muttered, but his voice trembled. A deranged employee craving attention. Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out an object that drew gasps across the hall. A ring. Not just any ring, the Blackwood family engagement ring engraved with its crest, set with the unmistakable blue sapphire passed through generations. "This ring," she said, holding it high, "was given to my mother by Henry Blackwood, my grandfather. The man you claim died without an heir." Whispers spread like wildfire. Patricia Weston whispered to Vivian, "My God, could it be true?" "Impossible," Vivian stammered, though her face betrayed doubt. "Richard would have told us if he had family." "Family?" Victoria cut in, her gaze sharp. "I am not Richard's cousin. I am his half-sister." The room erupted. Murmurs, gasps, disbelief. Richard staggered as if struck. "This is nonsense." He shouted. "My father would never." Victoria stepped forward, unrelenting. "Henry Blackwood had an affair with my mother, Isabella, his piano teacher, for 5 years. When she became pregnant, your father promised to care for us. And he did until his death." Helena's hand flew to her mouth. "Richard, is this true?" "She's lying." Richard barked, but sweat gleamed on his brow. "You cut off our allowance. You sold the home he bought for us. You left us in poverty. You stole everything." Victoria's voice trembled with rage. "You inherited a fortune that should have been shared." Richard sneered, desperate. "Prove it. Anyone can forge a story and wear a ring." Victoria's smile was predator-like. "Oh, Richard, do you think I'd come here without proof?" She raised her hand toward the entrance. "They can come in now." 3 figures stepped into the ballroom, their presence altering the night forever. Diane Morrison, Beverly Hills' most feared investigative journalist. David Chun, an inheritance attorney. And Dr. Hamilton, the Blackwood family physician. Richard staggered backward, his arrogance finally faltering. "Dr. Hamilton?" Helena gasped. "What are you doing here?" The physician, pale but resolute, walked forward. "I was forced to sign a falsified death certificate 20 years ago. Henry Blackwood didn't die of natural causes. He was poisoned arsenic, administered over months." A shockwave tore through the room. Guests gasped. Cameras shifted from ridicule to stunned recording. "Lies," Richard thundered. "My father had heart problems." "No," Dr. Hamilton continued firmly. "He discovered your embezzlement. He rewrote his will to include Victoria. And before he could expose you, you poisoned him." Victoria's eyes glistened. Finally, after 20 years, someone else spoke the truth. David Chun opened his briefcase, producing a document. Independent labs confirmed arsenic in Henry Blackwood's remains. Levels fatal. "You're inventing this." Richard screamed. A conspiracy! Diane Morrison raised her voice. We also have transcripts of your conversations with Dr. Hamilton. Threats, bribes, cover-ups. Then Victoria spoke, her voice cutting through like thunder. Richard, you didn't just steal my inheritance. You killed our father. You murdered him for money. I didn't kill anyone. Richard cried, pointing wildly. This is fabrication. Then explain this, Victoria said, connecting her phone to the ballroom speakers. A recording played his unmistakable voice. Hamilton, you'll keep quiet about the blood tests. If you open your mouth, you'll never practice again. And that woman and her bastard daughter, they'll fend for themselves. The silence was absolute. Gasps turned to horror. Even Helena staggered back. Richard, you did this? For 20 years? Richard's mask cracked. His arrogance melted into desperation. Helena, the childrenness will destroy us. You destroyed us long ago. Helena screamed, voice shaking the walls. The police sirens outside grew louder. Richard's downfall had begun. The gala had become chaos, no longer an evening of glamour but a courtroom of truth. Guests who once clung to Richard's power now recoiled as if proximity alone tainted them. Diane connected her laptop to the projector. Evidence filled the giant screen bank transfers, forged documents, secret recordings. Here, she narrated, $200,000, transferred from Richard's account to Dr. Hamilton 3 days after Henry's death. Note the memo. Silence is golden. Gasps echoed. Helena wept in the corner. Another file played Richard's voice. I need you to make the numbers dance. If they discover I've siphoned $20 million, I'm finished. Blame market losses, whatever it takes. Patricia Weston whispered in shock. He stole from his own company. Victoria stood like the calm eye of a storm. Years of pain crystallized into justice. David Chun stepped forward. In light of this evidence, Miss Tang, Blackwood is filing a $50 million wrongful death and inheritance claim. All assets will be redistributed under Henry Blackwood's original will. $50 million? Richard croaked. I don't have it. Your company is worth $120 million, Victoria replied coldly. Half has always been mine. The room crackled with the weight of her words. Victoria, Richard whispered, crumbling. Please stop, you've won. Victoria knelt before him, her gaze piercing. No, Richard. I didn't win. Justice won. And justice demands consequences. The doors burst open. Police officers entered. Cameras rolled. Guests froze. Richard Blackwood, once untouchable, was handcuffed in front of them all. You destroyed my life. He howled at Victoria. No, she said, standing tall. You destroyed your own the day you chose greed over family. I only revealed the truth. As Richard was dragged through the same hall where he mocked her hours earlier, reporters swarmed. The scandal was already exploding worldwide. And Victoria, standing on the balcony under the flash of cameras, felt something she hadn't known in 20 years' peace. 6 months later, Victoria Tong Blackwood sat in Richard's former office. The space had been transformed. Gone were the trophies of arrogance, replaced with certificates of social projects, photos of employees promoted from cleaners to executives, and murals of community outreach. Richard had been sentenced to 25 years in prison for murder, fraud, blackmail, and tax evasion. His wealth confiscated, his empire dismantled, his name disgraced. Victoria, meanwhile, rebuilt. Under her leadership, the company thrived. Profits rose by 40% in half a year, driven not by exploitation but respect. Employees received fair wages. Promotions were based on merit. Free health care, scholarships, and microcredit programs became reality. Helena divorced Richard, taking her children far away. Before leaving, she met with Victoria. "You could have destroyed us completely," she said through tears. "Instead, you protected my children. I will never forget your mercy." "Children don't pay for their parents' sins," Victoria replied. Dr. Hamilton now worked openly as the company's medical consultant, offering free care. "You gave me back my dignity," he told her. Meanwhile, Patricia Weston and Vivian Chambers attempted to rekindle ties. Victoria kept her distance. "You laughed when I was beneath you," she said. "Now you want my friendship because I have more money than you. That says everything about you." Her story went viral. She was invited to speak at universities, but she preferred the quiet work of building something real. "I don't want to be famous for suffering," she explained. "I want to be remembered for what I built." One evening, she received a letter from prison. Richard had written, "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but you showed me the monster I became. My children asked about you. They want to meet the aunt who saved them when their father failed." Victoria never replied. Forgiveness was personal. Justice was enough. During an interview, a journalist asked, "Some say your revenge was cruel. What do you say?" Victoria's calm reply echoed with power. "Revenge would have been doing to him what he did to me. Justice is ensuring truth wins and others never suffer what I did. There's a difference." That night, she returned home not to her tiny apartment, but to a warm house where she had adopted 2 orphan girls. As they studied at the table, she smiled, knowing her father would be proud. Her real victory wasn't dethroning Richard, it was proving that dignity, unlike wealth, can't be stolen. It is earned by choosing justice when no one is watching.